I have to design a product to evaluate developers' productivity within an organization. What do we capture in an epic?
This has been the most detailed video where a candidate has shared the entire set of questions along with the in-depth answers of what can you expect during the interview. So hello everyone, welcome to the another episode of Product Management Interview Experience. And today we have Shaundati, who have recently joined JP Morgan as a product manager. Welcome, Shaundati.
Hi, Sugat.
Thanks a lot, Chandati, for being a part of this channel. Folks who are here for the first time, I'm Sugat and I talk about product management, career, and a lot of great interview preparation tips. So feel free to watch my previous videos and subscribe to the channel. And in today's episode, we're gonna be talking a lot about the interview experience at JP Morgan and how Shantati pivoted her career from a business analyst to a product manager. Without any further ado, let's get started. Shanati, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. I have been working as a product manager, as Sugat mentioned, in JP Morgan and Chase for the past 3 months now. And overall, I have 9 plus years of an IT experience, especially in the insurance and banking domain. Starting with, I started my career as a software developer, and then I transitioned into business analyst. And then, from my interest standpoint, I managed to land into the product management role currently. So I have worked in technologies like BIPM, then Salesforce CRM, then other normal web services and Java based programs. So that's how my journey of my career as of now. So yes, so I can go ahead with the next questions that you can.
No, sounds interesting, and thanks a lot for sharing your entire experience, Shandati. So let's get started, right? Like, you pivoted your career from business analyst to product management. Why you thought so, or what were your few steps that helped you in getting transitioned?
Yeah, I started as a business analyst because I was inclined towards the functional side of it. I really wanted to know the business. And while working as a senior business analyst as my part of my previous organization, I got an opportunity to work with my onshore managers as well as my client side product manager. So while working with them, I was exposed to the strategic side of it, like how you plan, what's the whole strategy you plan, vision out of a product that you wanted to look forward. Those things actually got into me, and it was like very interesting. It is something beyond, and you have a very good research work behind it. You need to know multiple products that are in the market, what is the new trends going on. So it's not very straightforward, rather it is an amalgamation of a lot of areas together, which drew my attention. And being working with them, I started learning how things work, and hence, I decided maybe I need to prep for being a product manager and try to learn more out of it. Uh, that's the whole point where I thought of pursuing it through a lot of courses and trainings and readings and understand what is all product management all about, because it's pretty broad.
Absolutely. And I think that's been an interesting journey so far. For the folks who are in the similar path, who want to pivot into product management from business analyst or any other profiles, what a few instructions or steps do you have for them, or guidance sort of things, or if they should also follow some similar patterns which you did?
Sure. So basically, being a business analyst, you will always be aware of the business cases, right? So you need to drill down to the point that what is the pain point, what is the problem statement due to which such requirements came into picture. So we need to drill down till that level, understand the customer pain point, what is the issue, and why we take this route of implementation. So that's how I started digging down, even working with the engineers to understand why they chose this particular implementation strategy and not something else. That helped me to understand the application or the products where I was working on into more details. And during any of the hands-on session with my senior managers and our product managers, I saw they used to bring up lot of characteristics or the future visionary points which they're looking forward. And also they always brought up the customer feedback that we always talk about, the metrics is that we need to look at it in order to bring all the upcoming features or the changes that is needed. So I believe we need to change how we look into the scenario. Initially, as a business analyst, you always look at the requirement, but rather we have to shift and see from where this requirement is coming into picture. That will help you to understand the main root cause. So that's where I will suggest everyone to change how you look at the problem statement, not just the problem solution has been provided. So that's a starting point. Secondly, I would rather say the people who are new to the product management, like I was new to it, I was going through a lot of Udemy courses. We will find a lot of courses available nowadays. So I went through those courses from the design standpoint to understand how wireframes and the front ends work and how the design structure works, because I used to deal with them as a business analyst, but I wanted to know more about it, how you can pitch and de- and figure out a decision factor, that what is right and what is wrong. So those knowledge I started getting through multiple courses. Apart from that, I bought one very straightforward book from Amazon, that is PM interview, cracking PM interview. That book helped me a lot to figure out the scenarios. So for example, in product management is very common, right? You will be given certain scenarios and you will asked to solve such problems. That reading through those books, it helped me understand how I should think. It's all about the approach in which you are going to lead and how you think in order to have a solution in hand. So these are the few things which actually help me to understand overall product management angle and the whole core understanding of how you should look at it as a problem statement.
Kudos, Sondati. I think those are pretty well-lined, steps that understanding about the product management domain, reading a lot of books as well, also going through some of the Udemy
Yeah,
courses, and yeah, feels great. And thank you a lot for sharing all this with the audience. Moving
thanks
to
a
the
lot.
next topic, what I've heard from most of the people who are in the similar state that, getting a call, interview call is the hardest step, right? And
Yeah,
one of
true.
the roadblock is resume. Uh,
Correct.
how you modified your resume so that you started getting some product interview calls?
Frankly speaking, it was the main takeaway of a changing path. I modified my resume a number of times. I was really struggling. How should I structure so that it comes under the visibility of product management category? It's difficult uh, to come under first to be under filtered category of your resume, then you get a call, then you get a chance and an opportunity to showcase your expertise. So what I did is, I ran through a lot of examples which are available online. I reached out to a few of my friends from my college and my colleagues who transitioned from multiple roles into product management, and referred their resume, that how they're representing their knowledge into a product management specific role. In order to do that, in one company, I will like to share that experience. I shared my generic product management resume and I got rejected. But the good thing is, they replied me back and gave a very good feedback, because that was my first time I prepared my resume, that a resume should also be very much specific to the company that you are applying for. So for each company, what products they work upon, what is the exact the job description, based on that I need to tweak my resume and then apply for the position. That helps your profile to be selected, because you can highlight the areas they are looking for, and if you have quite amount of knowledge to represent that, you can do so. Generic resume, for me, I have felt it doesn't work. So that's one takeaway, and it really worked in multiple companies like Nike and JP Morgan Chase. So yeah, so I had to tweak my resume based on the JD, and that helps a lot.
A very valid point. I think I have also shared it multiple times that hey,
Yeah,
generic resume don't work. You have to keep modifying your resume based on different companies and different job description, and that's the best way of find getting the conversions and interview calls.
true.
Uh, awesome. So now let's jump into the the main part about the entire interview experience at JP Morgan. Would love to hear your entire journey, starting from how you got that interview call to what were the different number of rounds, the kind of questions being asked, and if also if you can share how did you answer some of those questions. So
Sure.
over to you, Shanti.
Sure. So, well, I specifically applied for the position of a product management role in JP Morgan Chase in their particular website because I got those suggestion from LinkedIn. And yes, I subscribed for the LinkedIn Premium. I took it from my friend, and that worked. And after applying, I got an email from their HR if I'm available for a connect. And they first understood that whether my experience is somewhat aligned to what they are expecting. So that was the very generic round, I would say, just to understand that it is not a mismatch to the profile. But I'm not counting that as one of the interview process, but rather I will start with, I had five rounds of interview. So first round happened based on the product's standpoint. It was all about sharing my experience, overall experience in the IT field, and specifically I have clarified, I have never said that yeah, I was in a product management role and I had a 2 3 years of experience. I didn't mislead to my interviews. Rather, I mentioned that I did activities related to the product management with my real senior managers and product managers. From there, I gained experience and I explained them the overall journey, that what are the, like, preparing the strategic documents, then preparing the problem statements and writing such documents so that it is well accepted and discussed for the planning and the roadmap of a product. So all those stuffs they have asked out of me, and I have explained my experience in my previous organization that I have gone through. The second question which they have always asked me is, what are the products that I have worked in? So, frankly speaking, I used to be as a business analyst in one of the service based company. It's a big four. So, we don't call it as a product, but rather we call it as a project. But it is kind of a product that we are selling it to the customer. So, from that standpoint, I had to explain the what are the projects or the products I was involved into. So, one was related to Salesforce CRM, as I called it out. It was for the insurance company, and I had to explain why CRM, Salesforce CRM, and what were the use cases that I worked upon, and what were the KPIs. So I had to take up one use case out of it. For example, there was one use case of IVR. So it is like a customer can call and enter their specific identity ID and their policy ID, and they can raise automated queries and it will get resolved or a ticket will get created. So I had to explain such one or two use cases, and what is the customer value I'm adding post implementation using the Salesforce CRM. What was the before? Because before it used to take a lot of time. So time was the factor. We wanted to reduce the time a customer is spending in order to resolve one issue. So that was our problem statement. So one or two use cases I had to explain with the customer impact problem statement and why we landed. So there were multiple use cases that I discussed in that round, and it was very much from a product standpoint. How I could represent the product that I have worked upon, and if I understand what are the main goals from a product manager standpoint, I should look at it. So that was the first round, Sugan. So yeah. So once that's done, I had to wait it for a week or so to get the next call, which I managed to get it. So the second round happened. It is again with one of the director. We could see in banks they do call it directors, so it's like that. It was scenario based. So they gave me a problem statement that I have to design and come up with a product idea that to be developed, and I have to call out what are the KPIs I would like to consider. So it was that kind of a round, and the question was I have to design a product to evaluate developers' productivity within an organization, because nowadays that time their point of view was that people are switching very often, and due to a high paycheck at a very high paycheck, so organization might be interested to look into the kind of contribution the developers are making and how productive those developers are. So that is what their use case were, that's they want to track. And in order to answer that, I came up with the questions like what are the user personas that they wanted to focus me upon, because in a short interview I can't complete all the user personas, right? So I focused on the develop there were three user personas I mentioned, that is developers, tech lead, manager, and one is for the admin. So they asked me to consider as a developers as well as tech lead. So from a developers and tech lead standpoint, the user personas I had to design in a pen and paper the UI part of it, and had to show that how the UI should look like and what are the functionalities I am thinking through, and where it will be placed and how it will work. So, for example, I considered one important area is that how many commits a developers are making per day, so that we can understand that a developer is working how much of a time productive work, how much commit they are making, and that will help us understand how many story points of a user story they are delivering. So that was my thought process, and I captured that is one of the KPIs. Second is they wanted to see the review comments they are getting. So in the same tool, they could see the kind of reviews they are getting from their tech leads for their PRs. So based on the reviews, they can definitely work on in the next attempt to reduce the similar kind of review comments. So that was kind of an a self-help tool for the developers to understand where are the areas they do miss or they are careless about, or they need to follow a certain standards or the protocols. So that was another area for a self-help standpoint. The third point was from the tech lead standpoint, that in a team a tech lead might be having 10 to 12 people. It is very difficult to track down. So a tech lead can have a top 3 or the top 5 contributors in that particular repo or in that particular project. So that help him to evaluate, okay, who are kind of a top performer and who are kind of solving more complex coding a solution. That will help him to understand the developer's competency at a glance. So these are the three areas, use cases, and the KPIs I have considered, and I have designed the UI in a very simplistic way into two profiles. That how a developer once they log in, how it should look like, and how if a tech lead logins it is similar, but there are few certain extra scope or area where they can see the specific results, as I mentioned about his or her team, and about top performer or the graphical representation of the number of commits or the number of review comments and the coverage of it. So that was all about very much focused on my second round of an interview. So that any questions do you feel so that you wanted to come back with?
No, interesting. I think this is super important, case studies and problems which are being asked, and maybe quick things for the audience as well. If you are still watching so far, let me know in comments how would you solve this problem of improving developer productivity, which is almost most of the companies are struggling to do that, and would love to hear your answers as well, and see what amazing solutions that can help here to solve this problem.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, Sandati, for sharing all these interesting problem statements.
sure. Next, the third round of interview was basically from the agility knowledge standpoint. So, in JP Morgan Chase, they do follow agile methodology. So they do wanted to understand whether I was having agile methodology experience or not. So there are certain things, usage of Jira, experiencing how to track the epics, how to write an epic, how we derive from an epic to the story level. So those knowledge they were focusing upon, and that interview was very much in that particular area. So the questions that were asked, I will straight away come to those. That how do we what do we capture in an epic? So what are the details we do captured in an epic so that anyone can refer and understand what is the problem statement, what is the solution that I'm looking forward on a higher level, not anything from an engineering or technical standpoint. That's a separate discussion altogether. And what customer value it's going to give out of that if I'm implementing that epic. So these are the three, and it is for whom? Who will be the users? So these are the few things that we always call out in an epic, and that was asked to me. And also, how will I be prioritizing an epic and sizing an epic? So it depends in different multiple organization. As we know, the sizing varies, right? Normally we have the t-shirt sizing, but again, organization to organization, they do have their specific rules to follow the sizing of it. But yeah, whatever I had in my previous organization, I just answered small in the t-shirt size and how the prioritizations are done. Next question that was asked is, what do you mean by product backlog? So definitely it is to the product manager to be responsible about the product backlog and the roadmaps. So they should have the futuristic vision that what my product will be doing in the upcoming quarter, and what are the stakeholders who will be involved into it, so that we can have the complete understanding and the dependency from a feature and epic standpoint, and do a lot of pre-research that what is the main problem statement, how, and support with the data that how many numbers of customer maybe are impacting on how I'm going to reduce it with time or other matrices. Now, with that, we also have to plan with the roadmap what could be delivered and not. And in order to prepare that, mostly product managers do prefer prepare the roadmap. But again, in order to finalize, as we know, we do need the architect or the engineering leads in input to understand the complexity of the implementation and how much effort it will need to implement, whether it is going to adhere to the roadmap that has been laid out by the product manager. So those areas were discussed because this interview was taken by one of the engineering lead who is also the agility lead, which I got to know later. So hence her standpoint was to understand if I'm aligned to this particular flow, and understand what will be my role as a product manager to prepare the product backlog, the roadmaps, and working with the engineering team in hand. So the another question that was asked is, what is the difference between definition of done and definition of ready? So these were the few questions that were asked on the agile standpoint and Jira standpoint, because they very much use Jira in their day-to-day life. So that was my altogether third round of my interview.
Can we consider this round as the engineering round, which generally happens, or there was a upcoming
There
engineering
was
round
there
as
was
well?
another technical, I will more rather say, because I thought this to be as an engineering round, but it was half engineering. I had another round, that's my fourth round, I would consider fourth or fifth round, where I was drilled down from a technical standpoint.
Interesting. Happy to hear. Yeah, yeah. Let's
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah. So the fourth round was again a little bit higher from the product management standpoint. So they were doing alter round, one focused on product, one is on engineering. So that was very interesting because the questions were asked, that was nice to answer. Again, the first question was, after they heard out what were the products I was involved in, that how do we market my product? Like, how do we publish that to the new user that, okay, this is something new that we are coming up with? How we did that? So that was interesting because the discussion turned out to be nice and interactive. Next, the question that we came up is to tell about a situation when I had a difficult decision to make. Because as a product manager, they explain that there will a lot of times that the engineering team and the product team might not be aligned to the same problem, right? So I believe all the product managers around will be agreeing to this point. There is always some or the other challenges in order to settle down to a certain point. Okay, 50-50 from this, and then go ahead with the solution and the problem. So that is another important point that was brought up, and in the interview, and how I would be interacting with both the side. That was my question. And definitely it is something you have to be very clear and have a good network and a connection between both the side to understand, hear out both the side, understand the pros and cons that both the teams are talking about, and come to a negotiating point, right? So anyhow, we have to do that in our day-to-day life. The next question that was asked is, what is the difference between a strategic solution and a tactical solution? So many times, due to high priority deliverables, we know there could be a strategic solution, but due to the limited time, uh, we might have to take the route of a tactical solution. So they wanted to understand the difference. Yes. So for the audience, strategic solution is something we look for a long time solution and for a longer period of time, whereas tactical solution is when you're solving a problem, but it is just for a shorter period of time, but it is not the best way or the optimum way you are reaching it, but you are mitigating the problem on a short period of time, but looking forward in a longer run for a strategic solution. So that was the kind of understanding they wanted to bring out of it. So yeah, that was really nice because normally we follow such things in our normal deliverables. And the another question that was asked is, how do we decide which feature or epic we are prioritizing for a roadmap? So I think this is very common. As a product owner, you need to prioritize, and that was a very straightforward product manager specific question. That yes, customer value and the data that you have on table are the deciding factors to prioritize your epic. So yeah, that's the end of my fourth round finally. So it's pretty lengthy, but yeah, it went on.
And I think fifth is the last round,
Yes,
or
fifth is the
okay.
last round. Yes. So because it was pretty much fourth round, and I was also losing patience.
And how much duration was this entire
It
interview?
depends. So, for example, for the designing phase, right, the third round, if I'm not sorry, second round, it happened for around 50 minutes. Okay. Because initial talks were there, and then they asked me to design. So there was some time was provided to me to design and represent them my idea. So otherwise, the remaining rounds, it 30 to 40 minutes, not less than that.
And total duration, right, starting from the first round to the offer, how much
Okay, that
extended
was pretty
period
much
was?
longer for me. Because I got to know later that there were few people were traveling between India and US, and that took a lot of time. So I would say it's almost 4 months.
Wow, wow, that's a long, really long period.
That's a
But
really
yeah,
long way. Exactly, because a lot of India folks took interview, then from US product team they took interview. So there are a lot of mix interviews were going upon, and to take the final call, the right person were either traveling or they were on in planned leave. So such things happened.
awesome. And generally it happens, right? We started also started losing patience, how soon it will be wrapping,
Yeah,
but that's the case.
definitely. I actually thought I'm rejected. I, I'm not anymore selected, so I just lost hope. I was trying to that gone. This time it's gone.
Awesome. Let's quickly hear about the final round. And
Yes.
yeah,
Sure. So the final round was a bit techy because the it was taken by the product head from US, and he was a tech person along with a product manager. So you can expect what kind of discussion happened. But the discussion was very interesting and different from the others. So his point of questions were from a layman standpoint. We are all techies, right? But he wanted to understand if I'm traveling on a train and I wanted to explain what is a SaaS or a PaaS based platform, or what is Salesforce CRM, such things to a layman who is not related to this our field. So that is kind of question he started with, and he also discussed about, again similar to the use cases that we talked about and why the use cases were selected, similar stuff, and pretty much similar to the previous product round as well. And also tried to understand what all studies I did before pitching in for the use cases and taking the decision that okay, this is the right direction the product is going, and preparing the roadmap. So that's all, Sugat, the overall journey in JP Morgan Chase.
hey, thank you so much, Shandati. And this has been the most detailed video where a candidate has shared the entire set of questions along with the in-depth answers of what can you expect, during the interview. So thank you so much again for sharing all this brilliant
Thank you, Sugat.
insights. Before we wind up, do you have any other message to pass on to the viewers who are still tuned in here?
There are a lot of people reaching out to me after I cracked this interview. I will request everyone to not lose hope, rather, just practice, read, go through the understanding, and even wherever you're working, you can just shift how you're thinking currently and think from a product manager's angle. And I believe that will help you to modify or represent your answer from whatever activities you are currently involved. You need not to be a product manager expert, but you can say, because we all somewhere or the other are solving a problem statement, we are working for a future vision. So there is nothing to worry, just have patience. It do take some time.
Absolutely. And so maybe you can even use this video to send it to all the viewers who want to hear your journey in a
Definitely.
detailed way.
Definitely.
So thank you folks for watching the today's episode. I hope this is valuable to you. And if so, please like, share, and subscribe this channel so that it reaches out to more and more such audience. Till then, stay tuned and see you in all the next upcoming videos. Thank you, Shandati.
Thank you.